Chatters, welcome everyone. Welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 6, if I number correctly, which I haven't always done, but if I number correctly, it's episode 6 of Red Planet. And today we're going to be talking about squatting. But of course, as per Red Planet tradition, we start with the 4 perma hosts of the show to talk about some stuff. And then we're going to bring on our guests in about an hour. Our guest for today is Amy C3, who's a good friend of mine. Also, a lot of you watch her streams, love her content. You all know that, or many of you know that she's a very ardent, very incredibly based supporter of unhoused people, an unhoused advocate. And so she's going to come on to talk about squatting and on private property and stuff like that. So get ready for that. That'll be in about an hour. But first, we're just going to hang out and chit-chat about stuff. Check in with Chad as well.
Just vibe.
Just vibe, basically. Honestly,
just vibing really, yeah.
We were vibing in the intro. We could just go right back to that. Just
carry on vibing.
Well, we were talking about the main stuff that we were going to be talking about today. So, yeah. We'll save that for later. Oh, wait, no, we were talking about positive leftist news, right?
Well, I was asking if there's any news this week.
There's positive leftist news? I was under the impression there was never anything positive to talk about. Chad, did you know this?
Yes.
Fucking hell.
But it's even better than that. There's a whole channel called Positive Leftist News, or PLN is actually the channel name, and they released a new video this week because they do a monthly roundup of everything that happened. So not everything that we might talk about will be from this week, but whenever they release, like, it updates me on a bunch of stuff that I hadn't heard about. Actually, Muel, you streamed something to do with Amnesty International, which is kind of a bit positive. I mean, the subject matter is pretty negative,
right?
But the thing is kind of
I think I know.
You tell us. You'd say.
Yeah. So, content warning for Islamophobia. Anti-Palestine stuff. We're talking about apartheid. We're talking about Israel. Amnesty International this week confirmed what we already knew, which is that Israel is an apartheid state regarding how they treat Palestinians in the occupied Palestinian territories and the Gaza Strip. It was very, if you know, I've done like a lot of looking into Israel and Palestine in the past. Having grown up in a household where basically my stepdad is literally like so pro-Israel, and every single person in my stepfamily is. It was always like, this is too much of a difficult subject. It's too much of a difficult subject. So I've made it my That's business.
The thing, right? They say like, oh, it's too complicated. We don't want to talk
too complicated. It's too complicated, right? But obviously, most people in the chat know. Everybody in the chat knows it's apartheid, and Amnesty International have confirmed that. And it's like when you hear about the stuff. How they're treated, because obviously in the occupied Palestinian territories, that is essentially all open air prisons. That's how they operate. They operate as, for want of a better word, people don't like it when you say concentration camps because it's not exactly concentration camps, but they're open air camps where you have to have the IDF's permission to go in between territories and stuff like that. Go on, Bunny.
I don't want to say that they're not concentration camps. If you want to, I think it'd be a safe place to say is like, just to avoid the verbiage, because I am of the opinion they are, and I think other people are, depending on certain definitions of the term. But I think that the term evokes Auschwitz for people.
Right.
And concentration camps didn't only exist in this one particular fashion. And they can absolutely exist in a modern in a more modern manifestation of it in ways that is not. But I also want to respect. I mean, I always want to let everyone know that I'm a dumbass, and so I'm always trying to learn things, and so I don't want to ever say like you're wrong because of something. So I just want to make sure that we can account for that position, because I know a lot of people in the chat have that position.
Yeah, for sure, and that's why, that's why I mentioned it, right? Because it's like, it's just sort of like my way of making things easy to understand.
Yeah,
right?
That's perfectly fair. But open air prison,
right?
Everyone should agree. I don't know what you're watching the stream for. You should be extremely. I mean, I'm just gonna say right now, the correct position. Even I, a dumbass, understand this. The correct position is to acknowledge that Israel is an apartheid genocidal state, and that, for instance, the Gaza Strip is an open air prison.
Yeah, and This is obviously it sounds like it's well, what the fuck is the point of this? We all knew this anyway. What difference is this going to make, kind of thing? And yeah, like, I can understand why people would think that, because when you look at something as horrific as that, and how all the other countries in the world, especially countries who are part of the UN, and looking at this and going, oh well, they're breaking international law, but yeah, whatever. That is incredibly doom-pilling, right?
Yeah.
But if you sort of take into consideration that Amnesty International, despite how much they get a lot of shit from established media platforms, right? You know, like the mainstream media and stuff, but they are actually like recognized internationally as one of the biggest authorities on human rights. So it's like, yeah, brilliant. You know, people are actually starting to take this a little bit seriously now. We're seeing more and more of a resistance to Israeli propaganda regarding Palestinians, and regarding sort of like the weaponization of anti-Semitism in the oppression of Palestinians. And so it's actually really good news, because this is something that's going to lead to more and more people going, holy fucking shit, this is wrong. We need to do something about this. And it's really important now, especially because there are plenty of countries. And I don't know when we did this. I don't know if you can help me with this, Soph, but I don't know when the British government decided that BDS was no longer fine. Like, it's illegal now. You can't do
well, we've never acknowledged Palestine as a state, as far as I'm aware, which is really cool.
Places
Love that.
Officially have,
No, it was a weird thing. I don't want to get too derailed, but I was talking about, because I'm researching about conspiracy theories at the moment. There's this concept called stigmatized knowledge, right? Which is like, there's the mainstream knowledge, and then there's stigmatized knowledge, and then there's like some things that are true and some things that are conspiracy theories. Anyway, I was talking about like how someone got some shit really wrong, and if you use their framework, then the existence of Palestine is a conspiracy theory, according to, like, you know, if you use like how wrong they got their framework, because like they're like official sources say this, and if you're countering that, then blah blah blah. Anyway, that is a derail. That is a derail. I think it was in the last couple of years. It might have been last year that we kind of made it like this is like BDS is you know, I mean, I don't know the exact legalization that they tried to apply to it. Like,
neither do I. I feel like the government just said we're not okay with this. I don't know. I don't think there was legislation.
As far as I'm aware, it's effectively banned, and I think that anti-Semitism may well have been the justification. But anyway, besides apartheid recognition by Amnesty International,
what is BDS?
BDS is boycott, divest, sanctions, which is a movement to boycott, don't buy things from. Divest, remove investments that you have in, and sanctions, impose economic sanctions on, right? Israel economically. It's an economic strategy of attack to try to end what Israel is doing. The Israeli.
It's kind of laughable, because it's like, how do you actually police people not buying products?
Absolutely.
It's
it's this statement, you know, it's like them throwing in support with Israel, sort of thing. But and it's the same thing that like what people like BDS is basically the same kind of thing. Like, it's the same I guess like kind of strategies that people were using against South Africa when they had an apartheid state there, when it's like you can't actually like actively go over there and like intervene, or you can't like just go send soldiers over to do this or whatever like that. So
but, in lieu of being able to support the oppressed people, you try to withdraw financial support from the oppressor.
Exactly.
But it's interesting. There's a lot of similarity historically, if people want to learn about it, between what people are trying to do now and the apartheid in South Africa. And a lot of the activists, a famous example, Jeremy Corbyn, were very much involved in campaigning to end apartheid in South Africa, and at the same time were doing the same towards Israel. And like, there was a weird kind of moment where everyone was like, we did it, we got South Africa, we ended it in South Africa, we'll get it done in like 5 years with Israel. It'll be done any minute now, because we're on a roll, and that's a bit depressing.
Well, it's also really tricky, because Israel and South Africa are not equal in like what they are.
No, I mean, no country ever is,
right, but like, it's not. But Israel's, I mean, this, maybe I have a pretty radical position on this, but Israel, in my opinion, its entire existence period is genocidal and apartheid. Like, its entire existence is, in my opinion, to just serve as, one of the many things, a strategic position in the Middle East for the Americas, military industrial complex. And so, unlike South Africa, Israel to me is just like a pure manifestation of American imperialism,
Sure, but you could say the same for the white colonizer state of South Africa as it existed under one regime.
True.
Right?
Yeah, true.
And then it became...
so, but actually true. Actually true, yeah.
Right.
Good point.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you
it's
could say
like...
for any state, really.
They might not have used it.
Yeah,
they
might. This about like a lot of, like
settler colonial.
Like borders,
Western Samoa under
borders.
America. We could say it's about Hawaii.
Haiti under the French.
A lot of these. I mean, it's like I like the term imperialist satellite, which I think makes a lot of sense. Which I interestingly learned because that is how North Korea describe Israel. Which I think like they have a very base take on Israel.
Wow.
It's like, they acknowledge Palestine as being, they acknowledge the state of Palestine, Israel as being legitimate. The only part of Palestine they don't recognize as being Palestinian is the part of it. What is it? The part that is actually Syrian territory, which is
Golan
Heights. So which is like probably the most nuanced take on the entire thing from an outside, state or whatever.
But I will say that we at Red Planet officially do not provide takes on North Korea. Officially.
We
provide takes, but we officially do not.
Imperialism everywhere. And,
but we do provide takes on more news that happened this week. So who's got some more news?
So what was up in the positive leftist news? The thing, was there an actual new video of that?
Look, there is so much in there, and
we should drop the link.
Like absolutely everybody should go and watch it. Like, we talk a lot about on this show about killing the doom pill, getting all that negativity out.
Really important.
That is the way that you do it. That is the way that you do it. It's so important to watch positive leftist news. I can't tell you how important it is.
I mean, like Mexi's stuff. Like I've been saying recently how I'm pivoting my stuff to do some stuff a bit different. Like Mexi is absolutely what I'm modeling my channel off. Like Mexi's amazing. Yeah. She does such good work. I'm just looking in the description of the episode here to remind myself, and the topics they touch on are free Palestine, workers' rights, food security, decolonization and indigenous rights, LGBTQ rights, Black Lives Matter, fuck the patriarchy is listed as a topic, electoral wins, environmental and animal liberation, and that's all within half an hour. So, you just like take half an hour out of your day tomorrow, whatever.
Well, there's a big team. There's a big team.
It's a bunch of base comrades.
You can actually email... You can email Positive Leftist News with positive leftist news stories that you have found that you think.
And I see it now. It's all like Harvey and Tristan and stuff like that. I didn't know that. I thought it was always just Mixi. No, that's amazing. I mean, it's like a tremendous amount of stuff. Yeah.
I'm gonna say
like I say, it's from the whole of last month.
I'm gonna say
surprisingly.
This too. Sorry. I just want to quickly say you can also contact us if you find it. We are probably a smaller establishment in comparison because we are newer, but feel free to reach out to us if you think that, hey, is this really good news? Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes it's like, is this lib shit or is this actually good news? But also contact us so we can maybe feature it on stream. And if you want, we can be like, blah, 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 gave us this story. And then you could be famous just like us.
How cool would it be if instead of blah, 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 that was your name that Nicole just said? What the fuck?
Yeah,
that would be so
incredible.
You missed the E out of Amy. Muel, you have a news item. Please tell us about it. I would love to hear what you have to say, DJ Muel.
Guess what? I've remembered it. It's the positive leftist news. It's actually related to what I was first talking about, which is the Amnesty International report into anti-Semitism. One of the coolest things that I saw one of the cooler things that I saw on Positive Leftist News this week, and I'm quite proud of it because it's near where I live, Manchester in the UK. A bunch of pro-Palestine activists went to the Elbit weapons factory in Oldham and shut it the fuck down.
Nice.
And this is a place now. Elbit is an Israeli company, literally specifically manufacture drones for Israel for apartheid purposes, and they shut that the fuck down, and it was great, incredible direct action. So there you go. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, positive leftist news had some basis in other bad news, sort of bad news that we were talking about earlier. So you can still have, even though we're talking about things that are seemingly bad, there's some good news. There's some progress with it.
Well,
always.
It's like Nat made this point. Actually, I'm just as is much of my career regurgitating what my girlfriend said.
I knew it.
Elbit are doing horrific shit, and like they're doing horrific shit because actually the protesting that it took to shut them down was actually pretty minimal. Like they just basically drew minor attention, and Elbit were like,
"Oh no,
get the fuck out of here!" Like genuinely, which is really good news because that means if we happen to know, which we do, where all the other Elbit sites are, we can get them all. We can get them all fucking shut down.
There's plenty of them in the UK. There are lots of them in the UK, actually.
Exactly.
Wow.
This reminds me of ag laws in America, making it illegal in many states in America to film the interior of any like factory farm or slaughterhouse.
Oh wow!
That's a thing because of how fucking corrupt this fucking shithole is. Anyways.
Well, yeah, it's like you were talking about Earthlings, right? Like you don't understand how like people can watch Earthlings and then like not be vegan in it. Do you know what I mean? I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, but I also can understand in a way, but in like a really depressing kind of like.
Oh no, sure. Well, this is
rationalize fucking everything. We sit outside and we're like, I'm sure there's a reason for that. I'm sure there's a good reason. I mean, I'm sure there are probably criminals. Like if people just find rationalizations for the worst things. So
yes, that's right. Chickens are criminals.
Yeah, maybe chickens are like they don't even. They're supposed to do that. They're supposed to scream.
I'm no expert in bird law, but
So the news segment is not meant to go on for half an hour, but I have a piece of news, and then we should really introduce the topic for this week properly.
Okay.
So I have a piece of news that is actually to do. Okay, well you should tell me your thing.
Well, I just want to say positive leftist news. Sophie looks very cute right now. Very
that's right.
Very positive.
Thank you very much. That is very positive.
Extremely news.
Right.
So yeah. Okay.
When
now you
she's right, she's right, and she should say it.
Very brave.
Piece of news that relates to Red Planet. It's actually Red Planet related, and it's not like a thing going on out there in the world. In a few weeks, we're going to do an episode. We need to plan when. We're going to have a planning call this week between us, the hosts, and figure stuff out and all our agenda and a bunch of other cool, actually tech stuff, which might show up in the itinerary as well. But one episode we're gonna do is gonna be to do with trans DIYing. If people in chat don't know what that is, you don't need to, because that's not what this request is for. If you know what that is, right, you can DM Red _planet_TV, because we want to know about people outside the US and UK, what the situation is for hormone therapy provision, what people do to supplement it, and people's experiences, so we can report on it, because we really want to do like a thorough report, which will draw light to things. This fits perfectly into our show's raison d'etre. Okay, like we're talking about ways that the state is making people's lives impossible, ways that the state is letting people down, and ways that drives people to engage in illegal activity. The comparison, I will make this comparison again a bunch of times when we do the episode. The comparison is illegal abortions. Okay, the risk of serious harm or death is much lower, but that is still the same risk at play, and it is still the same dynamic at play, where conservatives, for no scientific or humane reason, are cracking down on something, and it drives people to other means. So if you have information about DIYing outside of specifically the US and UK, please get in touch. You will be kept completely anonymous as a source, and your DMs will be deleted afterwards, so even the other mods, after I've read through them and put them in the notes, won't see your DMs.
We won't know.
There you go.
Know.
Okay.
Right, cool.
We shall not make excuses for the terror. what you cannot see.